Hello and welcome to Creative Leaders at the House. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. I'll be your host. The world is becoming increasingly more complex. And the more complex the world becomes, the more we need creatives that inspire us, that challenge us, and help us to disrupt the status quo. This is a new series of the Creative Leaders podcast done here in the wonderful setting of Soho House, Hong Kong. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. I'm an educator, design entrepreneur, and author, and I'm also the founder of Creative Leaders. As we begin, the episode for tonight is going to be Pragmatic Storytelling with Joyce Yung, which is a photographer, entrepreneur, and producer. Welcome to the show, Joyce. So I want to start, Joyce, with this interesting take of your career, because as we were prepping for the show, I figured out that we have something in common, right? So can we begin about how did you arrive to photography and what was your journey?
So we find, as we're discussing, what we have in common is what I studied. So when I was growing up, I didn't really have a specific interest or passion, or I haven't discovered it. So I was always good at math, science. And so for university studies, I went into something that's very pragmatic. So that's operation research, industrial engineering. And I actually entered as computer science, but switched to industrial engineering to make it slightly broader. It's more about project management and optimization and just generally improving things, right, in process. So after studying, I went into a very traditional job in a corporate world. So went into banking, a more commercial bank. So I did credit risk management for a bank. And that was in New York. And so that started my career. I did that for quite some time. But in between, I always felt like, I don't know if this is something I want to do, till I retired. So I've always been searching for something that maybe I'll be passionate about and eventually have my own business. And so then I moved to Hong Kong with that company. And so I had the opportunity to come back to Hong Kong. My family is based here and I'm originally from Hong Kong. So that was a great opportunity. Then a few years in, then I discovered, I started getting more into photography again. I think when I was young, I was always interested, but never developed that interest further. So I really kind of studied, self-taught, went out and practiced, did a lot of shoots and thought, well, this is really what I wanted to do. And so that's how I transitioned into photography.
When you were in your conventional job, you always had the drive to do things creatively or to be creative.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's also a through line or kind of my view on creativity throughout, actually. But of course, developed over time, right? But at the time in a corporate job, I mean, I feel like in anything, you can be coming up with different solutions. So I think creativity is that. It is kind of doing something that's not just what you're told, right? Or just the norm. So even if it's a system or process, and that's why even in engineering, I went into process engineering, because I feel like there's always something that you can improve upon, and you can look for things to kind of do differently. And I think that's embodying, creativity in terms of how you solve a problem, how you look at something, but think of another way to do it and do it better. Yeah, I think that's the nutshell.
Was there a pushback when you were trying to push new solutions or different solutions?
Yeah, I mean, always with any step of the way in any industry, actually, there's always pushback. And especially in corporate, I think sometimes the pushback is not necessarily the process or the solution proposed. It's just general people pushback or different departments. So there's always different clash of ideas and clash of egos. And so, I mean, I think I learned a lot from different step of the way, and whether it's corporate or doing my own business, there's always different things to overcome. But definitely, there's pushback. And when you do something different, there's always pushback. There's always someone that's like, oh, well, we've always done it this way. Why don't you try this? So I think with that, it's a lot of times you use historic information or what they've generally done, use that to show a solution, but then something else that could do better. And so if you can or maybe you can test, A/B testing or test different methods, then you show that the different way or the new way may be better. So yeah, I think it's just might take a little longer time to convince someone in corporate or in a larger group, but definitely you can find ways to get there.
Super interesting. But can we dive a little bit more on the transition. So what drove you to say, okay, this is something that I want to pursue? Why photography out of all the options? Because you are also a podcaster, entrepreneur, producer.
Right.
Why photography? Why you started the journey through this medium?
That's a good question. I think I've been searching for different passions or different things that I may be able to turn it into a business, I should say. So I've tried different things, but certain things I'm not good at. So you realize, okay, I've always been joking around with my husband as well, and my mom and Derek, is that I've tried to be a baker. I like chocolate, so I thought, oh, maybe I'll come up with a concept for chocolatier. Go to France and do this. It'll be awesome. So there's a lot of ideas that are pretty awesome, like what I can do or what experience I can go through. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at it. I tried and, kind of burned everything type of along the way. So in terms of cooking or anything relating, that was a no-no. I thought about real estate. I'm coming from Hong Kong background. That's kind of a big thing as well, or a lot of people dabble. So at the time I was in New York, I did take some classes. Again, it didn't, I was interested enough, but it wasn't something that I want to do that full time. So I think I've tried different things. But photography, I think finally was something that from a hobby turned into really passionate about it. I really enjoy the interaction. I started with what's available, which is friends and family events, weddings, portraits, and I just really enjoyed the interaction as well. So I think that's part of eventually going into podcasting is similar, is to understand the story behind someone and why they did something and the journey and how everyone else could kind of learn from it.
When you share your story, and I can see that experimentation and discovery is something important. And I've been an educator for many years, and my experience with younger students was also trying to guide them to face this, let's say, struggle or difficulty in trying different things. And most of the time, when we try new things, we are not really good at it, but we have to find a way, or we need to find an angle to keep pushing. You show that with your different passions, but I assume you also had this same experience in photography. So when you started, maybe you weren't as confident or as prepared or as flexible as you are today.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. I think everything is a journey. And same with photography. When I started, I took photos of friends and family. But through that, I try to understand what I'm good at, better at. And so, yeah, I tried all kinds. Sorry, get close to the mic. Yeah, when I started, I tried all kinds of photography. So again, I started with events, weddings, but anything that comes along the way, because you want to build your portfolio as well. So not only do you want to practice and experience, but you're building a portfolio. So I did products, which includes, there's a huge range. So, a lot of times people lump product together, but there's jewelry, which is very specific and macro sense. So there's certain types of lighting and lens that you need. But there's also clothing, which is super difficult as well. If you don't have a model, it's on a mannequin, how it drapes, the color. And then you have food, and you have different types of the photography that I tried. So through that, you discover what you're, again, better at and what you enjoy. Product is okay. I think it's nice when you don't want to talk to anyone and you just want to kind of lock yourself in the studio and have 100 pieces of product to go through. It's okay, but it's not my preferred. So I prefer to work with people. So anything that has people related. So whether it's portrait, lifestyle editorial, and working, with people, models, with brands, that's kind of my thing.
Do you define yourself as an introvert or an extrovert, or in between?
Yeah, in between. I saw recently there's a new term for it. I forgot what the word is. Ultravert, I think. It's kind of like introvert and extrovert, but more introvert, I think, because that's drawing energy within. And I think a lot of times when I want to recharge or reposition or think again, like, just kind of like a New Year resolution, thinking about, well, what's ahead. I find it better that if I'm just thinking within, right? So I'm just sitting down quietly and do that versus going out and absorbing energy or needing the energy. But I love meeting people as well. So, that's again why I enjoy shooting with people or having a discussion and a podcast, and I'll go to events because I get to talk to people, understand what they're doing, and that kind of help fuel some of the thinkings and some of the projects that I may want to do in the future.
Before we dive into the podcast, because I'm super interested about that. There is a sentence that caught my attention when we were preparing and we were discussing, and you told me, I love the pragmatic aspect of photography or practical aspect of photography. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. I think for me, because I've had the analytical background and also then moving into the more one creative side. But we've talked about creativity could be in process as well. But what traditionally people think as creative, going to photography, I think, what I find interesting is merging both the practical aspect and the imaginative aspect of doing things. And so for me, a lot of it is seeing what works, what makes sense, but seeing in a different way, I guess. So
that's the engineer coming out.
Yeah.
You want things to actually function.
Yeah.
This is the one thing that I am a hobbyist photographer, but for instance,
Yes.
what I love about photography is also the technical aspect of learning, about aperture, ISO, shutter speed, and controlling these variables and looking and learning how this variable change. Is that something that is also fascinating to you?
Definitely. I think that's partly why I feel like I picked up photography pretty well, because I do get the aspect of the three, factors of getting the right exposure, and you can play with it. And what was interesting is you can play with the elements and make it look different from usual. So even though it's from a technical, practical perspective, you can change it to show something more artistic. So like light painting photography, right?
True.
That's a long exposure. It could be, 1 second to 30 seconds or a few minutes. I've experimented with that. And I find it, very interesting, fascinating to show something that's not what you see, but it's all in one shot.
Yeah, you did a series about that, and Hong Kong is one of the best places to do that. Right?
Absolutely, yeah, because you can use with just regular light, street lights, and all the traffic goes by. That's the most classic long exposure you'll see with car lights, tram lights, and background lights, and everything. And I've used flashlight to supplement. I've done one of my favorite light painting was in Shenwan, just really dark alley, but with one street light. And then it took a few minutes to draw the scene with the benches and, all that. And it was all one take. And I always find that's quite interesting for photography, because it's not superimposed, but, it's still not of reality in what you see, right? So it's a different reality that's still there.
Was there also the thrill of not knowing what it would come out? Because when you do long exposure, you only see the result after the fact, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely part of it. It's slightly frustrating as well, because sometimes you just want it a certain way, so you have to do it multiple times and then just kind of realize, okay, I guess I'll just leave it to be, let it have its own journey for how the light goes. But yeah, absolutely.
If I can, I want to go a little bit deeper on the topic of stories. Why do we want to tell stories? What is in the stories, in the people, in the discovery that fascinates you? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, that's a good question. Why? I guess I'm at the heart of it, I'm always curious about something, right? So whether it's wanting to do something, wanting to experience something, wanting to go travel, it's all about curiosity and just trying to find out more. And I think as I, do the photography and work with different people, I'm curious what drove them to this career or that, or because you have to interact with your client or the subject, right? And so you try to you have a natural discussion as well on the topic. But the more I talk to them, it's like, oh, that's interesting, and I wish I had more time, or depending on the photo shoot, and or it's just inspiring to find out different paths. And this person might be a banker, but they have this hobby, or this person is a lawyer, have that, or this person is a surfer. Why did they do that? And why did they move like 10 different countries? Or someone that didn't go anywhere, move anywhere, not didn't go anywhere in life, but didn't move anywhere, what drives them normally. So I think there's so many combinations, and I find it, fascinating to find out things that I wouldn't do, but somebody else did it.
Do you think then curiosity might be the foundation of creativity?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a foundation. I think you have to have curiosity to do most things, actually, whether it's creative or to have a drive, right? So you have to be curious to drive yourself to do something. And then to do that, you probably have to be creative about doing it. As we said, creativity is not just in an artistic way, right? Absolutely. So it's like, how do you solve a problem? So you have to be curious in order to want to solve a problem or do something better. So in that iteration, you have to you have to be curious enough to find out.
This is taking an interesting turn. I'm trying to I haven't wrote this one. Do you believe that nowadays, with all the tools and with all the access of information that we have, are they, and I don't have a definite answer, are they helping our curiosity or are they damaging our curiosity? Because I'm torn between the two.
Mm-hmm. I generally, my philosophy is you embrace the new things, embrace the technology, and you embrace it and learn it so that you can use it to how you like it and to your advantage, and not be kind of like sit back and go, oh well, AI took over or internet took over or whatever it is, because it's going to happen without you, with or without you. So you might as well go with and understand the new thing, whether you want to do it or not. But one should understand it, get to learn it a bit, and go with it. So I think in general, overall, should help. I think.
So you are the optimist side of things.
I think so. I think I'm also the net positive. If it's net positive, then that works, right? So probably have some side effects or some negative side effect, but I think overall, if it's positive and it helps me, helps people around, helps mankind, I think that works. But I see what you mean. As I'm talking through, thinking of my son. He's 8 years old, and with all the technology, with all the things, all the shows out there that can watch, is that helping curiosity or not, right? So I think on one hand, so it's same, right? So on one hand, it does, because then he sees certain topics or certain things explained earlier than his school or regular school age. But on the other hand, maybe he's just, then it's one-sided, right? He's watching it versus me.
He's absorbing. He's not participating in the act.
So it's a balance. And I think for adults, same thing, right? You can just sit there and watch all the AI video. How to do things all you want, but if you don't do it, it's also not helping. So I think you just have to, But it comes down to curiosity, right? If you're not curious, then I guess it doesn't matter.
So as a mom, as you mentioned your son, and probably there is a long generational gap, because we are almost the same age. I'm a little bit older, but when we grew up, everything that were artistic, creative, was seen as a little bit of a side gig, right? Or to the best, something that you should do as a hobby or do as a side thing. It wasn't serious job.
Right.
And yet, today, if we look at World Economic Forum or any other serious business data that asks even senior executive what is the most important skill that leadership or top management needs to have, is critical, creative, and system thinking.
Hmm.
So how do we break this, I would say, belief that, creativity is not as important as STEM, for instance? And we come from a STEM background, right? And
Right.
I loved my journey.
Yep.
But I also found in my studies that some of the things that, let's say, the canonical engineering structure, that either things work or don't work, or there is only one right answer to most of the problem, was actually not true. Like,
Right.
I had to go in the fields of design. I had to go in the fields of innovation to actually say, oh, actually, there are multiple questions. There are multiple answers. There are different ways to tackle a single problem.
Right.
So as a mom,
Yeah. I mean, I think just what we talked about. I mean, a lot at the heart of it. It's still being curious, but finding the solution. I mean, the solution, as you said, may not be one solution, but just how do you get to it? And to get to it, you may have to be creative, right? So creative is not the traditional sense, as you said, like when we're growing up with our parents, not just being artists. But I think I also produce content, but produce film with my husband together, and a lot of it is being creative, problem solving, daily or hourly, because you're on set, you're doing something, you have a certain schedule, but most of the time, not most of the time, but like 20% of the time, it doesn't go according to how you want it.
Plan.
Right. So whether it's small change or larger problem, like someone didn't show up or whatever, right? You have to solve it quickly. So that's being creative. So I think being able to be, optimistic and just having that can-do thinking, right? Can-do attitude. It's like, okay, we can do it. How do we get around it, and not just be stuck in like, oh, well, that's it. It's done. This talent didn't show up. Well, we're screwed. And just keep, just throw your hands up, or the gaffer didn't show up. What do we do? So you find ways, right? And if you have the can-do to say, okay, it's gonna happen, you solve it. So
if you had to give an advice of how do you build this skill, like how do you build this practice of figuring things out, especially now where I see a lot of younger generation very scared, in a sense, because of social media, because everything is public, because everything is potentially exposed. So in a way, how do we build that muscle of it's okay?
I mean, I think you definitely have to try different things, right?
Okay.
So I guess building, let's say, like looking at my son, building from when you're young, you try different things, or let them try different things. And it's okay if that's not something that you're interested, or that, or you don't like anymore. Just try till you find something. Because if you don't try, it's harder to know, oh, I like photography, or I like, this other thing. Or maybe I like it, but I'm not good at it. Same thing as you explore. So I think not just a kid, but of course you can start as a kid. But if you're, adult, it's the same. You just try it if it's, not like life-threatening, right?
True.
So of course you weigh the risk of doing certain things, but if it's more of the perspective of, oh, let me just learn, it's an experience, and you just try it. If it doesn't work out, it's an experience. If it does, you build on it, and if not, so it is kind of a problem solving, right? Or a computer iteration, like you do this, if not, then you do something else, and then you reiterate. So it is kind of, creativity is a process. I mean, as well. So there's a certain way to do it. You try and not, even like, in terms of art or photography, if I go out to street photos and have a certain thing in mind, but it doesn't turn out a certain way, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll come back in another lighting, right? And better lighting or a better situation. Or maybe I'll spark some ideas, say, oh, that would be awesome if it's raining. So maybe I'll come back for this when it's raining. So, or
sometimes you have happy accidents. You try one thing that you thought it didn't work and actually works.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. So sometimes it's planned. Sometimes you come, you see it and you plan for it later, or sometimes it's a happy accident and just that's the best shot and that's it.
And it's interesting to see, maybe it is, I'm questioning Is it an happy accident, or is something that we actually do
Mm.
purposefully because you try so many different things, because you don't stop and say, oh, I need to make that shot. And if it doesn't, the conditions are not perfect for that specific shot, I'm just going to give up. But you say, oh, maybe I'll try from a different angle. So do you get lucky, or do you build your own luck as well?
Yeah, that's always the question, right? I think it's a lot of it's building your luck,
Yes.
really. So, like with any opportunity in life, I think you have to be ready to receive that opportunity at the right time. So, a lot of times, of course, it's lucky enough that that opportunity is there or that moment is there.
Sure.
But I think you have to have that experience and skill to be ready to execute on it. So even if it's a happy accident shot, you're right. I mean, like, oh, then maybe I can see it and go, okay, I know how to, work with my shutter speed and all that. I mean, if you don't know photography, let's say we're using that example still, right? Then I may not be able to execute on it. But if I see it, and you have that, split second to decide, okay, I'm gonna go slow shutter right now, and then or go all manual and not work with the shutter speed or aperture, then I do that, and it's a quick decision. So it's correct, and a lot of it is experience that build towards that executional moment.
Talking about failure, because you talked about, in my book, I talk about sustainable and unsustainable failure. And when it comes to curiosity and creativity, one of the things that I suggest most of the time is also a changing environment. You are a global citizen. Hong Kong is a global city. I had the good fortune to come here many, many years ago and experience a culture that I'm Italian, and which is very, very different than my culture. Different culture, different language, different habits, although there are a lot of similarities between Chinese traditional family and Italian traditional family. It's very
big family, big celebrations.
Big celebration. But in reality, there is a lot to learn. I remember my first couple of years in Hong Kong and how much I learned. I came here already adult because I was in my early 30s. But I learned so much. And I also learned the uncomfortable feeling of being in a place where most of the time you don't understand what people are saying.
Right.
And that immersion was very significant for me. So would you say that that's another aspect of your mindset, in fact, of your journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is building that grit, right? Like being able to, fail, but get up and try something else or do it better, depending if you want to solve that problem or realize, okay, this is not for me, try a different direction. So, so it's important to not get something right, or fail. But I mean, that's not really failing, right? You're learning from it. But be able to pivot. I think pivoting is important. From the failure, you pivot, whether it's to a better solution or a different solution or a different path. Because I mean, if you don't learn, then you didn't learn, right? So then no point to that failure. You just kind of left it. I feel like you do have to learn from it. So I think you just learn from it and see what you can change or do differently.
So if I can connect some dots, just as we reach our conclusion.
Sure.
We talked about transitioning, creativity, practical aspects, the ability to connect dots, to create our own luck, not to be afraid to fail within what is sustainable. And also the fact that there are some balancing act that we need to play between trying new things, being curious, but also developing our own craft. So there is also that aspect of craftsmanship, we can say.
Sure. Yep.
I would like to close with, if you can imagine and do this exercise of vision, what would you like to happen in the people, in the creative industries, or in our environment? What's our duty as creatives to share with the world or to live?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It's a big one.
But that's all the big question, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, these are all big topics, right? We want to explore. So that's what's great about, your
I
podcast.
really want to get into your mind.
Um,
And I also want the community to get to know you just because we want to share
yeah.
the amazing wealth of knowledge that we have at our disposal that eventually, we get caught up in our day to day, and we might not have sometimes the time, the courage, the audacity, I would say, to come up and say, hey, Joyce, I saw one of your pictures. They're very interesting. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think like something like this, what you created as a platform is amazing. I mean, I think a lot of what we do, we want to be able to share, right? So with the photography, it's same. It's like, we did a storytelling workshop, but like whether it's from one image to a series of image, similar parallel to writing, right? You can do a short form, longer form, a blog or a story, a novel. It's to share the thinking and the story behind it. And so for me, it's more image, of course, maybe sometimes with some words, but then with the longer form story, then I also turn to podcasts and kind of understand what others are doing and my curiosity and what they're doing and how that relates to the world and what's the hot topic or what's the interesting topic. For mine, it's more highlighting successful female stories. So I talk to different female leaders, whether they're executives or entrepreneurs in different industries, just to put that out there. And hopefully there's an audience that at different age and different industry will hear some of it and go, wow, that was interesting. I like to hear the advice and the journey that someone took and just be able to kind of go, okay, I'm gonna take the risks and do it, depending on what mindset they're in, right? But if they're just on the cusp, and maybe that'll inspire them to do something. So I think for me as creatives, whether it's a very loosely creative form, right? I think it's being able to bring other people on the journey and say, oh, we can all do it. We can all find a way to discover a bit more about ourselves and learn from our experience, but to kind of do something different and do something new and exciting. So and everyone can do it.
As leaders.
Yes. That's right. As creative leaders, we do that. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Soho House, for hosting this episode. Thank you, Deadwood Studio, shooting this wonderful podcast. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. This is Creative Leaders at the House. Thank you again to Joyce Yung. If we want to contact you and see your website and also your wonderful book,
yes.
Where should we find you?
Thank you. Easiest is Instagram. It's YUNG JOYCE. So it's Yung Joyce. And my book is Hong Kong in 100 Photos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you.